I believe Susato will also be talking now, so I might have to mute myself.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with another awful crime. And why was that not voiced? Okay. Hey, it's the bitch! She's back!
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer. So please, I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
You know, I usually have the kazoo for Naruhodo when he thinks about Kazuma, but you know, for this moment... Oh no! They killed this one! Oh man! This has one of the best objection themes too, and you only get to hear in this case. Ugh! Anyway, sorry. I gotta move some stuff because I can't see. 13th of August, 8:26 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. Defendants Antechamber 3. Oh shit, I gotta remember how to say that. Here I am again, after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I can't say Judicature properly in a sentence. I have to pause and say it. I feel so nervous. But I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Ah, good, you're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes, good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You cut a fine figure, counsel. But you look as white as a sheet. And those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Oh dear. Well, the truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born. Susato! Goodness. Not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Yeah, I'm like, don't say that in front of your dad! Yujin Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advance in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me? Would I be correct in thinking that you are to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication. The whole thing! Remember me. Born the same year as I and my greatest friend. So fun fact about, Rei, also known as Haori Murasame. That was her Japanese name. So fun fact about her, Nuri was the one who insisted on putting her into this game. Mostly because they wanted to have Susato a character that's kind of similar to the friendship that Asogi and Naruhodo have. So, like, you can see why some people might like calling this case the lesbian case, basically. Because this friendship between Susato and her sort of a reflection of how Asogi and Naruhodo are. But also because they felt there were too many men in the first case, so they wanted to add a woman in it. So, Yujin was actually supposed to be the defendant, I believe, initially, when they had made this case. So now we have Rei. Which, if you didn't know what her pun is, it's remember me. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the university research laboratory, helping my father. And sadly, she's a defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling alright? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my, it's just that you look so gallant and dashing. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Huh? What do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes. I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you? Susato? I'm so sorry. I didn't say something sooner, Rei. It's just... No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform! That varsity cap! That varsity cape! That varsity badge! Look at you! You look for all the world just like a student of the Imperial Yume University! A male student! I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see... The varsity toilet paper. It was the only way. The only way she could be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at being born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women. We're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom. Despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. Greatest friend, but she's only here for one case. I'm just worried that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. No, I have complete faith in you. Rei. It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already. And yet, just because you're a woman... What a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Rei, please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just, you really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that, once or twice. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Rei, so you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can't see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped, and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean.
Well, maybe she not commit murder, but she seems like she might have committed something else.
I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side, because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer.
Spoken like a Naruhodo.
That means so much to me, Susato.
Defendant, counsel. Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty.
Oh. Stand aside!
She's in a rush.
I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast.
Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father. Going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer.
There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But, Father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this.
Yes, quite right. I kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. What, because there's an English woman involved? I didn't want to burden her with that.
And is it true? The reason why every lawyer is refusing to take the case, is it really because of who the victim was?
We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student.
Thank you, Father.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm Susato Mikotoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan.
Oh yeah, her dad seems fine. What's this about a fever?
How many times have I wished that he were here, I wonder. Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san.
I'm gonna turn on the air. Give me a second. I also, 13th August, 9 a.m., Supreme Court, Judicature, Courtroom 1. Why is that hard for me to say? I don't know. Help me. Also, I do not know what a tokoyaku means either, unfortunately. Paper Boxes will have to elaborate whenever she's back. This court is now in session to hear the trial of Ray Membami. Okay, I don't know if I can say her full name properly.
The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency.
Dang! Ray's right! She is pretty gallant and dashing! Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency. We are ready.
Ready!
Yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Is that correct?
Sorry?
Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. So I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, counsel?
Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I'm Ryotaro, he who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan.
It seems Ryotaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it.
And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen.
Naruhodo? A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be?
You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is, his cousin. That's right. Ryotaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. Ace English simp. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any Tokyo's preeminent lawyers.
Any of them.
Tut, tut, tut. What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy. How dare you! Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her. Her? Oh,
Please be careful, Ray.
What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not.
I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes are wont to flit.
The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interest. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire.
Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock. Dear me.
Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense. Yeah, I'm about to answer all the wrong answers again. To determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. And I have to answer the wrong answers, or else I'm not going to get an accolade. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you are standing now. This same judge tested him as well. Yep. I thought I mentioned that, or maybe you weren't there when we were talking about mocap. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. Yeah, sure. I picked all the wrong answers, but yes, I did pass with flying colors, I guess. Yep, same person. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions?
All right, it's time to prove myself.
I just love how when she becomes lawyer mode, she just picks up all these Naruhodo mannerisms.
Yes, Your Excellency. But please do make them simple.
Very well. To start with, you will state the name of the victim.
That is simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried. Uh-oh.
What's the matter?
Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are wont to blank.
It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position, and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances.
Oh dear. This is a dismal failure.
Oh, don't fret. You need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem.
Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record.
That's right. Just use R to open the court record. Then you need to flip to the People section with R. And don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely.
All right, check the court record with R, and that's where the information I need will be.
I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case? The victim in this case is, yes, Prosecutor Taketsuchi Auchi.
What? Why the sudden triumphant cry of yes? Are you threatening to kill me?
He seems angry. And you're surprised? Did you consult the court record? You must look through it carefully. Whoa, slow down. There's like, chat is, my freaking Nightbot's going crazy. Oh, yes, I did, of course. I looked at everyone on file. And I chose the person whose features appear to be the most deathly. I must say, this most unusual methodology of yours leaves me almost speechless. It occurs to me with renewed certainty that reading the information carefully is vitally important. I strongly recommend it. Oh dear. I simply can't ignore that imploring look. Your Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer. Sorry, I took a drink. Very well, I will excuse this incorrect response given your wide-eyed state of panic. What is the name of the victim? Boo. My dad. The victim in this case is none other than Professor Yujin Mikotoba. What? Well, to be written off by one's own child. Father, you seem suddenly so much older and warier than you were mere moments ago. Because of you, clearly. The judge is asking for the victim's name, the person who was killed in this case. Look through the information in the court record again, carefully, before you kill me, for mercy's sake. Oh dear. I simply can't ignore that disapproving look. Father Frustrator! Your Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer. Very well. I will excuse the incorrect response given your wide-eyed state of panic. Okay, it's Giselle. This bitch is here. Oh, she has a yes! The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett. A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record. Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett. Behind the woman's student persona was the face of Queen Victoria. Yes. I wanted to put that down. Queen Victoria, obviously. You give me funny options, I'm going to pick the funny option. Obviously not.
The Queen of England? Studying overseas?
I thought it sounded a little odd. Leave me out of this. I'm sure you know all the details of the case in question from 9 months ago. Oh, yes. How could I forget? I know every last detail about it. Then what on earth was that absurd answer you just gave? I'm horrible. No more absurdity, please, Counsel. You'll amend your answer. Hello, DG Shoes. Yes, of course, Your Excellency. Did they both have to call my answer absurd?
Yes!
Oh, her yes is so cute. 9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yuma University was killed. And the culprit was Giselle Brett. Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. And it was in that midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours. Professor Mikotoba. 1 hour ahead of me. Yes, I was indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter of the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed, it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryanosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett.
Ooh, a gun! Shiny!
Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion. And now she's dead.
Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be moved to Shanghai, China, instead.
Why Shanghai? There is a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligation was to see the woman safely on board a steamship.
And yet, the very day before her departure, the English woman was killed.
I also like this case villain.
Only the day before.
The space killer's Auchi? That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. I'm glad you think so, despite the fact I just answered with Queen Victoria as her, the Giselle's identity and all that stuff. Oh, and also condemned my father as dead.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle.
Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Auchi.
Is your wish, Your Excellency.
I like his little tuft that's in his, on the top of his head now. It's like a little poof.
The Repungent Crime took place on the 11th August in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, at a secluded bathing spot by the sea.
There's always a beach scene. There's always a beach sequence.
The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung. An injury which proved fatal.
The bitch is dead, ding dong.
There are two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett, in her bathing attire, and the accused, Remember Me. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady.
You know, I know the localization for, the reporter that we're going to be seeing eventually, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pronounce it properly. I forgot what the pum is. It's memos? It's probably memos. Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say.
That's certainly true. The prosecution's summary was full of words that raised an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel on what he said about...
What's the motive?
You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement.
Tut, tut, tut. Is the Yoko boy using long words he doesn't fully understand?
I beg your pardon?
No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Meibambi-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yume University, I believe.
Yes, I am.
I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment.
I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility.
Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then? Oh, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson.
Oh dear, Dr. Wilson, the visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago. Rubble, 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 rubble.
The accused has a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true?
Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man.
Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him.
Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray! Be careful what you're saying.
Oops. The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency.
You know, 2 themes are coming out of this game I'm learning now. The theme is partners and revenge. Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. I must find out more details and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel and what he said about... I think I have to select all of them. Mainbami-san. Yes, what is it? Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd made it my alias Ryotaro Susato. Ryotaro Susato! Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place. And why you were alone with her.
Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present. A detective who was guarding Miss Brett, for starters.
Oh. Is it Hosonaga? Hosonaga just failed his guarding duties again, didn't he?
I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life.
No!
Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again.
Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel. The prosecution counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now at least, we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let them goad you. Oh dear. This is really terrifying. But Father's right. We need more information. Yeah, I just have to pick everything. If I may, Prosecutor Auchi.
What do you want, you fresh-faced young Yoko student?
I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot.
Ah, my apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind.
This country bumpkin is about to kick your ass, Auchi.
Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skins.
No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea?
For old time's sakes, I believe.
Sorry?
Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. and the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply.
But on what grounds would we agree to such a request? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal.
Don't look at me, Professor! It was the government who granted permission, not I! In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong, and something went wrong.
But in fact, a murder took place.
I said don't look at me! It was that young student girl who did it, not I!
No one has proved that yet. I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. I believe we all have a clear picture of the incident now, despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago. Ms. Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university.
How is that allowed? Look, if it was a minor offense, I could see her going back to university, but she killed someone! Ugh!
Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Ms. Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Ray.
So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit. A photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident.
Oof. Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image.
As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden.
The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. Crime scene photograph. A photographic print of the scene taken by police just after the incident occurred. The stab wound in the victim's back is clearly visible. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. A finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant.
Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case.
Oh boy.
We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions, but on all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence.
Witnesses? But who?
One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I keep saying defective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt.
Very well then, counsel, bring forth your witness. Witnesses.
I, Taketsuchi Auchi, have been waiting for this moment.
Sorry?
Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. That trial 9 months ago, here in this very courthouse. When that irrelevant little student boy utterly humiliated me. Irreverent.
But sir, I don't think it wasn't Naruhodo that cut your top knot now.
Ryunosuke Naruhodo!
Huh? Yes?
This insult to the Auchi family name will never be forgotten!
You've become conceited with age, counsel. But the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that.
I love his little tuft of hair, though.
Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died.
The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, counsel?
Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Auchi growth. You see this seed of hope sprouting forth from the bearing expanse of my crown.
I think that tiny grove is trying to tell me something.
I'm afraid I can't really see. Where is this hope exactly? I said silence! Today I face another Yoko student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you! And my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand.
It looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. The prosecution and defense each has much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to Ray's life. Father, please.
Father, why?
Soseki?
Witnesses, please state your names and occupation for the court.
Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. You're in the wrong disguise for the environment we're in right now.
And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital. In fact, yes, soon to be sold out, the satirical I Am a Cat, a sensational success by Soseki Natsume. Hi, person back there taking pictures.
Oh my goodness!
Turtle in HD. Struggling student from the provinces, please, you needn't be in awe of me.
I needn't?
It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence, but all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki even.
I think the fame has gotten to Soseki's head, but you know what? I'm happy for him. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Susato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either.
Hosonaga, master of disguises, can't pick out the disguise that Susato is in.
Ah, I suppose it's this disguise, is it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. But what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san?
Ah, well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident, in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less.
At Yume University?
At the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the Medical Science Department. The professor over there, in fact.
With Professor Mikotoba? Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. Oh no, dogs are barking. I wanted some story or other about 2 former students who studied in Great Britain.
Of course, being renowned author, the press never leave me alone. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scrubber my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure. My provisional struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies.
Thank you very much. He practically threw that paper at me. Not Soseki Natsume's article. A newspaper containing an article about discussion between my father and Soseki-san. The debate became quite spirited.
Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words.
As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory, under strict surveillances, of course.
At at which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
That detective, I am at liberty to divulge, was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga.
Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. Cough, cough. But fortunately, I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so... Sir, you're bleeding from your mouth again. I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Oh my, Inspector, you... Well, you do have something on your face now. It's tomato juice. Ah, how unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean that you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place.
Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. Ah, but if only I had, I'd never have seen that awful sight. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret.
That guy in the back. I don't know what his name is in the localized version yet, so I can't say anything. Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency.
Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am.
Apparently so. For someone who has been indicted for murder and has been accused for murder and everything, she sure is having a pleasantly good time. The witnessed scene? On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise.
I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me.
You're catching crab? Okay. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question.
Yes! That young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly.
I think she only stabbed once, I think. I saw the blood on the blade. It proved to me that she stabbed the victim multiple times. Are you sure there were multiples? Indeed. It does appear from this testimony that both witnesses were present, saw it, the very moment of this heinous crime.
What? Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was it.
Hi, Carmen.
Damning evidence.
What have you here, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer.
What? Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more.
Ah, goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberate there in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Ah! The owner's initials have been engraved by the ebonite barrel. R.M. Remember me. That name is so silly to say. The initials of the defendant. No! Look, I know they're all silly names, but for some reason saying remember me is kind of hard. This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence. Fountain pen, the pen that the victim was found grasping in her hand. It carries the initials RM.
So, have I admitted anything? Decisive testimony, and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel.
Oh my god, was he barefooted? I didn't even notice. I don't understand. The prosecutor Auchi of 9 months ago had none of this man's poise. Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Huh. Come on, Ryotaro. Naruhodo-san. Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me. Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom. Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please. All right. I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. Oh, she's so gallant. Oh, sorry. Oh, look at the cut-in with her. Oh, that's so good. Cut in with HD. Ryotaro cut in with in HD. I'm not presenting anything. I just want to look at all the stuff we have, because we have a lot of stuff now. Oh my god, look at these two. Look at these two. Soseki, are you going to, like... You look like you're about to, like, karate chop Mikotoba in the neck. What the hell? But he looks happy. I'm happy for him. Like, seriously, he looks really happy. Oh, I can't oh, man, is that a tutorial I gotta wait for? Oh, okay. Wait, I don't have an autopsy report. Hold on. Wait, yes I do. Oh, I do, a postmortem report. Okay. Okay, female British, August around 2, certain by examination and witness statements. Single deep stab wound from behind, piercing a lung, resulting in fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in the victim invoked what? What? What is this? This is an extra piece of note. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, she's only been stabbed once, so you guys are absolutely wrong about the multiple stabs. In that jaunty disguise? Correct. Wait, no. I mean, it wasn't the first time I've worn this swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. Do what must be done to keep the Englishwoman under surveillance. Those were my orders that day. And this tried and tested outfit was the answer. Being able to blend flawlessly into a crowd is an important part of detectives' work. The turtle is kind of distracted. I submerged myself in the salty water, leaving only Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle! Mr. Turtle loves the water. Mr. Turtle! But there was no need for you to blend into the background on this assignment, really, was there? If that made you late arriving on the scene, I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong. Oh! That sick burn. Perhaps I shouldn't pursue that line of questioning any further at the moment. Holy crap. Smiling Soseki a day keeps the doctor away. Yes, it does. Why are you chasing a crab, Sonny? You're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Soseki-san. In more literary terms, you might say it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens. Hiya! Or the like. Of course, that's just a metaphor. We renowned authors are wont to describing things so. Soseki-san wasn't at all like this in England. Anyway, I spun around at the noise and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze. Yes, the beach hut. The area is popular with government ministries. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always very quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure, erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun. Although the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, of course she did. Which meant that I was forced to change into my swimwear on the sand. Ah, I imagine that was rather embarrassing for you. Well,
anyway, I tossed the crab aside and headed for the beach hut at a run. Or, in more literary terms, I decrabbed and beetle off hut-wise.
This is so much. This is so much. Soseki's just so much. I'm happy for him, but he's so much. Wait, by pair, you don't mean to say... But how could it be? No, you misunderstand. Obviously, I mean the victim and the defendant. Remember me, son. Oh, it would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset. If you jump to conclusions, you have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes.
Dear me, pining your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish, very foolish.
It really was an outside chance. I just wished I'd realized that before I'd said something silly.
So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court how exactly you found the aforementioned pair in the hut?
Well, it was a sorry sight. A really grisly sight. I parted the Norin curtain hanging in the doorway and stepped inside, only to see the defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim sprawled on the sand. My glasses very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes.
How thoroughly appalling!
Ugh, he doesn't appear to be lying here. Well, Soseki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder?
Ah, you'd like a literary man's opinion.
Hold it!
Stabbed wildly. You actually saw her do it.
Oh, indeed! The terrible specter! The terrapin inspector! The bloody torrent! The author's torment! Eek! Every sight and every sound is still carved in my melancholy memory. That was my impression, at least, as a future literary sensation. Counsel, what on earth was that shrill, effeminate scream?
Oh, no, what are you insinuating? I'm as manly as Japanese men as you. I wonder if I might interject here, Soseki-san. Something you said is troubling me. That was my impression. Were your words just now, I believe. So, do you mean to say you're not confident that you really did see what you've described?
No, I mean, yes! I know what I saw! My ears didn't deceive me when I heard that scream, hence my eyes didn't deceive me either. I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it all in tomorrow's newspaper serial.
No, he's not barefooted, he's wearing sandals.
It sounds as though the next installment of I Am a Cat may take a macabre turn.
I think this is a fool's errand. The more we press your author friend on what we saw, the more entrenched he's going to become. Oh dear, how awkward. So that means we're presenting to him? Okay, yeah, we're presenting to him, but first we'll press. She was stabbed multiple times. How can you be sure of that? Very simply, from the blood on the blade. The blood? When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised up in the air.
Yes, that's right. I saw it too.
Oh. And I noted that there was blood on the blade already at that point. In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived at the scene.
Yes, that's right. I saw it too.
And the victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand too. All of which means I can be sure the victim did not die instantly.
Yes, right. Saw it too.
Maybe a year in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese. The logic of your argument is sound, at least. Well, as I said, it is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly. That's just my personal opinion, of course. I love freaking Yujin or Susanoo are just scolding freaking Hosonaga and his job. So much right now. Freaking the turtle jiggling. Counsel, you will refrain from mocking the witness.
Oh no, I just have so many thoughts whirling around in my head. It's all I can do to stand here, wide-eyed and mute.
Goodness, my dear, you really must try to calm down.
But how am I supposed to find an inconsistency in what these two gentlemen are saying? I don't see why either of them would have any reason to lie.
What you must remember, I think, is that witnesses may inadvertently lie at times, for various reasons. A misunderstanding, a mistaken observation, a delusion, even. A delusion.
A delusion?
What's important is that we determine the truth, and there's only one sure way to do that.
Yes, with evidence, of course.
Spoken like a true judicial assistant. During witness testimony, you can use R to pick a piece of evidence to present for consideration. So you need to listen carefully to each statement and compare what's said to the details in the court record. If you find some conflicting information, that may be the inconsistency you're looking for.
Yes, it's all about inconsistencies.
Once you've identified a witness statement that appears to conflict with a piece of evidence, present the evidence to the witness with X, and the way ahead will present itself to you, I'm sure.
Yes! Alright then. I'll consider the details of all the evidence in the court record against each statement to find an inconsistency. I hope I'm up to the task.
Don't forget that you can have the witnesses repeat their statements as many times as you like. Everyone has to start at the beginning, remember. So those wide eyes are quite forgivable. And besides, there's no one else to defend the poor girl.
You're right. I need to listen to the testimony again from the start.
No, we don't. We just need to go to the last one.
Objection!
She said it! Oh. She's so good. She's so good. With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench. And the stakes have been very, very high indeed.
Prelude to her objection! Sorry.
What's the meaning of that menacing pose, Counsel?
I just lost the chat. Give me 1 second. Okay.
It's like the witness to clarify something for me. It's like I liked. Who, what, where, when, how? Not you, Soseki-san. The query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me. In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times.
Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon.
And yet, that cannot be.
What? Get to the point, please, Counsel.
In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only.
Ah!
In other words, Inspector Hosonaga's testimony is clearly flawed. There it is. And Soseki-san,
Me?
you claim to have seen Mami Mome.
Mami Mome, that's not the character. That's why I keep messing up Membami.
Membabi-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes, I did! Wildly!
But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point. That there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding.
Yes, and?
It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there is no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred.
True!
Oh my god, why is her objection thing so good? Then what exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you ever going to tell us?
Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body.
That can't be!
Oh, that's so good. I'm sorry, I'm so into this song.
Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with that objection, and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection attempting to steal the show.
You're right, there were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Ooh, slender! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference.
What? Why not?
Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witness saw. The knife was already tainted with blood, because the accused had already stabbed the victim.
Oh!
All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustache author is prone to moments of extravagance.
Rubble. What was Susato's voice actor again? Oh god. Rina Takasaki. I love her voice. She's really good. Miss Takasaki. Is that it? Yes. Yes? Miss Takasaki. Okay. I am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion.
But if she was withdrawing the blade...
Then we are back where we started.
Sorry?
Consider this, young Yoko boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? And with a demon's cold-blooded composure, too. The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good.
Why did Ray pull out the knife?
Isn't she, working in, medical?
Ah, yes. Going for the jugular. What does father mean by that?
Let the court hear your answer, counsel.
The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could save her life. According to the postmortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury.
Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer.
The point is, being a medical research assistant, Meibami-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life.
That's kind of plausible? Is it plausible? No, actually taking out the blade would cause her to bleed more, wouldn't it?
Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young Yoko.
Indeed.
Ugh. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here?
Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. In respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the Yoko Defense Counsel, I mean.
Slipshod?
An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel, hopeful, has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense.
Very well, Inspector. I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly. Will you, sir? Alright, let's hear it. Forensic medicine primer. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive of killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Is that what you just said? Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Oh, I see.
Ha! This is why yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it.
Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so... Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit. Father, is it true, what they're telling me? Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways. But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett? I don't know. Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but... could my friend actually have...
No! Susato!
Yes!
Pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here.
Huh.
Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination.
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I will be moving to my adjudication immediately afterwards. Sure, no pressure.
I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard.
Hold it!
You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you use due care and attention, it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really. But the blade is like a stopper on the wound. Remove it and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation.
You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath.
Oh.
Back to the witness testimony, please. Oh, shoot. Does that mean we get, like, a pursue sound from Soseki at some point?
Hold it!
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Is he gonna have a little sound?
In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Which is... clearly, the defendant, Ray Remember-san does not possess an ounce of sense.
You just called your friend stupid?
What do you think about that, Professor Mikotoba?
I'm not sure that you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense.
Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer.
I don't know, young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it.
Careful, Counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing.
Oh dear. That recoiled on me rather badly.
That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn.
Hopefully you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Meibami-san would certainly have been aware of it.
Hold it!
But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground, bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove a blade inadvertently. I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would behave so irrationally. Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it?
I don't like that line, but okay. Sure. I don't appreciate that line. Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. Well, okay, it's never mind. They shut it down. In the lines.
Oh dear. Perhaps I'm letting my male persona take a hold a little too much.
Yes, Sato, tone it back a little. Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? That should cover the medical side of the argument.
Hold it!
Whatever the motive, it's just isn't in Meibami-san's nature to do something so awful.
But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against.
But you don't know the defendant.
Objection!
And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law.
Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings.
With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused.
So do I.
Oh, Susato! Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please.
Ah, yes. Miss Brett was in many ways the sworn enemy of Meibami-san.
Hold it!
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Meibami-san's talents and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him.
Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Meibami-san's abilities.
Clearly the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Rain knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life forever, I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it.
Susato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals.
The fundamentals?
Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it?
Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to present right now. I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater Okay, well, no, that's why I need a tutorial. I realize this is your first time playing the role of lawyer in the courtroom. So if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help.
Examine the evidence in the court record. It's an idea, certainly. What should I do?
I know what to do. You don't have to tell me, Dad.
Come to think of it, Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san were always turning evidence over and over in their heads. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with A.
Ah, by the looks in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue.
Yes, I'll do it straight away.
Okay, well, let's do that then. Are you not looking at that?
This is the newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. Ooh. From Yume's medical research. Father, isn't that your lab?
What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen.
This morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know?
As embarrassing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information?
Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there?
It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I'd put Ray in charge of the project.
Ray? She was managing it?
If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow.
I don't believe it.
We need to read this article very carefully. Okay, poison article. An article about poison that was stolen from the laboratory at Yume University. Even my father, who is responsible for the lab, knew nothing of the incident. Oh, okay. Wait. Can I see the front page too?
Roxas England returnees, tell all. This is the interview with you and Soseki-san, is it, father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange.
Yes, he became a little more over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me on the neck.
I do hope you weren't hurt.
I mean, he's here, so he's fine. Person on a bicycle.
If we take off the pen's lid... The RM initials are very clearly engraved here.
And the fact that Ms. Brett was clinging onto this pen in her dying moments is very clearly a message too.
To identify her killer, you mean?
I don't think there can be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case.
Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we?
What?
This must be a little reservoir that holds ink.
Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from a bottle up through the nib.
Is something wrong, Father?
Just that there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all.
Oh yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose.
Fountain pen bearing the initial RM, that has a small reservoir inside into which ink can be drawn. There is a very small amount of liquid still inside. Ooh? Hello? What are we looking at there? Well, I'm not sure I'm going to use it for anything, but I appreciate it all the same. Okay, deadly poison. Following the lecture at Yume by Soseki Natsume on the 11th of August, came to light that a very disturbing incident took place. Deadly poison, secretly developed in the university's forensic science laboratory, is stolen. Smallest amount entering the body, either via a mouth or a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in Ooh, I got something. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with the impaired breathing and ending with acute contractions of the pupils prior to deaths. Just of this toxin is apparently an all-new synthesis of alkaloids and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. Great.
Objection!
Gotcha.
No, there is a possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound.
What?
Ha! The Yoko not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser.
Oh, are they?
Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified?
It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison have been stolen from the laboratory at the Imperial Yume Une.
Objection!
The victims perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. Are you sure?
But
Let me finish. Prosecutor Auchi, you will let the defense speak.
But a newspaper article. The court cannot rely on that kind of hearsay those wretched publicans carry. Publications?
Counsel for the defense. I am going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentions affirms your assertion.
Your Excellency!
Yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without this just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled a knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says... The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it rapidly absorbs and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting? If the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Membami-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is... It was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What?
This is a complete and utter nonsense!
Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny the possibility.
Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. There's also a note, sir. The word poison appears nowhere in the document.
Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Oh, please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway.
In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potential lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense.
Exactly! Well put, Inspector! On what grounds did she do it, Yoko?
Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What?
No, you can't possibly!
From your expression, counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence.
Yes, Your Excellency. I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times, from my place at his side in the Old Bailey.
In that case, counsel, you will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison in the newspaper article?
Take that!
Or take that? I would ask the court to refer to the notes section in the postmortem report, which reads, Extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Oh. Clearly, being a Yoko with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please, do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that an unusual symptom of death.
Well...
Under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes.
What are you doing, you Yoko detective?
In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death.
What?
If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely.
Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt.
Prosecutor Auchi, I think you'll agree, this is very compelling evidence.
You... Yoko student and Yoko professor!
Great, now the professor's a Yoko. I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions.
No!
Yujin Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. Whoops. It pains me to have to admit it. But I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know. The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell me, the court, that the reports of this theft were unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say.
Ha! Listen to the bumbling academic! Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in the newspaper.
I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision.
Father.
Tch! A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees.
That's totally unfounded.
Hold it.
Who spoke? Whomst? Soseki?
No. Okay. Oh no, Ray.
None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault.
Ray.
Meimambi-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated.
But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day.
What?
So you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Soseki-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just tiny amount, it was.
Why didn't you let me know immediately?
I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was.
The thief?
You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman.
Miss Giselle Brett.
That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison.
Well now, whatever do you mean?
And then she suddenly got her to her feet before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints.
I don't believe it. In other words, you realized that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison.
My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips while I'd been with her, which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back.
And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade.
Yes. If the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I had hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time.
Oh boy. You attempted to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
It's barely perceptible,
but I do think the balance has shifted a little here, in this courtroom now.
Yeah, enjoy it while you can.
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, Membami-san, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed.
Well,
You have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
Objection!
but you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you?
Oh, I have evidence, and is very much conclusive.
What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it.
You will propose the affirmation evidence at once, Prosecutor Auchi.
Perhaps some praise is due, young Yoko student.
What?
I had imagined there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you've brought this on yourself.
What the?
Could a more damning shot exist? The cruelty in the air on the beach is almost palpable. I don't know who's talking. This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature. For it shows the precise moment that Membami-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back.
No, that's not true. No! I don't believe it. Ah!
Order, order, order! Counsel for the defense, was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom? I know, right? You can't tell if she's taking it out or stabbing it in.
Perhaps his voice has yet to break. These yokos are slow of mind and slow to mature.
I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Careful now. Susato is starting to show her face here. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cognate photographic print as evidence. Incriminating photograph. A photograph print taken at the moment the victim was attacked. My friend Ray can be seen kneeling over Miss Brett.
I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve this entire time. It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words.
Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph?
Ray.
That's a good question.
That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Oh,
Objection!
that's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony.
Ah!
I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once.
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Pardon?
You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown.
Why would you present an evidence with no source? Hello, goodness.
Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believed it fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court?
When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment. Because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you?
Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor! What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses.
But the defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment that the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but
the moment it was withdrawn? Don't waste this court's time with your ramblings.
Indeed. Without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures is without a doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defendant is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear.
oh no.
Susato, this is the time for you to fight. If what you've established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim.
Yes, we just need to prove that somehow.
You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Taketsuchi Auchi in a court of law.
If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it.
I got the clue. I know what I gotta do. Well, Counsel, I have something. Let's do it. Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is, I have the answer. Naruhodo face slap.
This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took the dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal.
What? No, you can't possibly. But as you so boldly claim that you can, please do enlighten us.
Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name.
How utterly underwhelming. Do you really believe you could?
Please let me finish. However, I am able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity.
What?
Very well then, Counsel, present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity of the mystery photographer?
Take that!
What is that? The newspaper again. Runctious England returnee tell all.
It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines in the right-hand side.
Ah, yes, indeed. They had already caught my eye as it happens.
Ha! What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like, inside a building?
There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you.
Now, if you look closely at this photograph,
good gracious!
Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too.
Objection! Well, that tells us nothing! Ha! Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree. Again?
There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Counsel.
Ugh.
What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired?
The curious matching pattern that appear on both photographic prints is a result of
the camera defect.
Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs.
With the photographic device?
Yes, we can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched, and that scratched lens caused unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device.
In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera.
But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one. Objection!
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Auchi, that one of the photographs feature in a newspaper article.
A newspaper? Oh!
That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime.
What?
Mommy Mimo! What, Mommy Mo? Mommy Mimo? Me Mommy Mo? Mimu Mommy Mimamu? I see why you are called a Runctious England returnee.
What are you yelling about? You've already testified. It's Many memo! I tell you, many memo! Many memo! Men! Ni! Me!
Oh, man! So many memos, okay. Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo?
Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move, even right now. A reporter by the name of Writing Many Memo.
Writing many memos. Oh, that's so good. So his Japanese name was Heita Mamemome, by the way. That's why I kept screwing up earlier with Ripmami, because it's so close to his Japanese name.
Now that he mentions it. They secretly spy, snapshot, scribble stories, and scrupper my privacy.
Could that same reporter be?
A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Writing Many Memo.
So are you saying that this picture was taken by...
Many memo, yes, my lord, your excellency, Esquire.
Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. He's probably somewhere here. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime.
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
As you say, your excellency.
And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood?
Many memo!
To be continued? To be continued. All right, we'll probably finish this trial tonight then. There was only one to be continued, so technically we couldn't finish this tonight. But I'm gonna stop, and we're gonna hit